The smoke came first, black and thick, rolling through the merchant quarter like an advancing army. Mira Ashford pressed herself deeper into the shadowed alley behind the tannery, her trained eyes tracking the fire's progression. The grain storage had been burning since dawn, and now, 3 hours later, the flames had found the oil reserves. The explosion shook the cobblestones beneath her feet. 17 years. 17 years since merchant Victor Cross had purchased her for a bag of grain, 20 pounds of winter wheat, and she still wore the iron collar that marked her as property. The metal had worn smooth against her neck, warm from her body heat, a constant reminder that she was worth exactly what a family needed to survive one hard month. At 25, she had spent more years as property than as a person. The makeshift shelter she called home, a lean-to constructed from stolen boards and canvas behind the tannery, would be consumed within the hour. Not that it mattered. She owned nothing that couldn't be carried in 2 hands. 17 years had taught her the wisdom of traveling light. Mira moved through the chaos with practiced invisibility. Her bare feet found purchase on smoke-slicked stone, her thin frame slipping between panicked merchants who shoved carts laden with salvaged goods. Guards shouted orders that no one followed. Children cried as their parents dragged them from danger. The bucket brigade had already abandoned their posts, the fire too large, too fast, too hungry. Then she heard it. A sound that didn't belong to the chaos. High and desperate, it cut through the roar of flames and the shouts of men, whimpering, coming from the collapsed stable near the fire's edge. Mira froze, her tactical mind immediately calculating. The stable's roof was already catching, orange flames licking across dry thatch. In minutes, maybe less, it would be an inferno. She should run. She was nobody, a purchased girl with scarred hands from years of labor and a back marked by Victor's whip. Saving her own life was challenge enough. The whimper came again, weaker now. Damn the gods, she muttered, changing direction. The stable door had warped from the heat, jammed shut in its frame. Mira grabbed a broken cart spoke from the debris littering the street and wedged it into the gap. Her arms, thin from inadequate food but strong from endless work, strained against the leverage. The door cracked open 6 inches, then 12, then enough. Smoke attacked her lungs immediately, thick and caustic. She dropped low, where the air was marginally clearer, and pushed inside. The darkness was absolute, except for the orange glow creeping across the ceiling beams like malevolent fingers. The heat pressed against her skin, and she could hear the wood groaning overhead, timbers stressed beyond endurance. "Where are you?" she called out, her voice rough from smoke. A response came, not a whimper but a growl, young and terrified. Following the sound, Mira crawled deeper into the inferno. Her hands found straw, then wood, then something warm and furred. The creature snapped at her, drawing blood from her palm, but she didn't pull back. In the dim glow of advancing flames, she saw what she'd come for. A wolf cub, perhaps 3 months old, its hind leg twisted beneath a collapsed stall beam. But this was no ordinary wolf. Its eyes gleamed with an otherworldly luminescence in the smoky darkness, too bright to be natural, too aware to be animal. A distinctive white crescent marked its chest. A wolf cub in the merchant quarter during a fire. Nothing about this made sense. "I'm trying to help you, little demon," Mira gasped, wedging the cart spoke under the beam. She put her full weight into lifting, her malnourished frame shaking with effort. The cub snapped at her again, panic overriding reason. The beam shifted. The cub pulled free just as burning debris crashed down where they had been crouched seconds before. Mira scooped up the injured creature, surprised by how light it felt despite its size, and turned toward where she hoped the exit still existed. The doorway had become a rectangle of flame. She had perhaps 3 seconds to choose between burning to death here or burning to death in motion. Mira clutched the cub tighter against her chest and ran. The pain was immediate and absolute. Her threadbare dress, the only garment she owned, caught fire across her back. The flames spread with horrifying speed, consuming the cheap fabric, reaching for her skin. She burst through the doorway into the street and threw herself to the ground, rolling in the ash-covered cobblestones, still protecting the cub with her body. When she finally stopped moving, her back was screaming, her lungs were raw, and the cub was pressed against her chest, its luminous eyes watching her with an intelligence that made her stomach drop. "You're safe," she whispered. "Alive. You're safe." Then she noticed something extraordinary. The cub's injured leg was already healing. She could watch the bones straightening beneath the fur, the tissue knitting itself back together like time moving backward. The transformation took perhaps 30 seconds. When it was complete, the cub stood on all 4 legs, perfectly whole. "What are you?" Mira breathed. A shadow fell across them both. She looked up to find herself surrounded by massive wolves, each one larger than any wolf should be. 12 of them, standing in perfect formation, their eyes all holding that same supernatural glow. They watched her with an intensity that felt almost calculating, almost military in its precision. The cub in her arms made a soft sound. The largest wolf, black as midnight with a scarred muzzle and shoulders that spoke of old battles, stepped forward. It lowered its massive head toward her, sniffing at the cub with its white crescent mark, then at her burned hands. Then it did something that shattered Mira's understanding of the world. The wolf's form rippled like water disturbed by a stone. Bones cracked and reformed with sounds that should have been agonizing. Fur receded into skin. Where a wolf had stood, a man now crouched, naked and powerful and impossibly beautiful in the firelight. His hair was black as his fur had been, falling past shoulders marked with the same scars. But it was his eyes that held her frozen. They still held that ethereal light, still inhuman, still watching her with predatory intelligence. "You saved Ash," the man said, his voice rough, as if rarely used for human speech. "You burned for him." Mira's mouth opened, but no sound emerged. Around them, the other wolves were changing too, men and women rising where beasts had stood, all naked, all watching her with those moon-touched gazes. The man reached toward her collar, his fingers stopping just before the iron. His expression shifted, something dangerous flickering in those luminous eyes. "A slave," he said, "yet you risked everything for one of ours." "I don't," Mira managed. "I don't understand." He smiled then, revealing canines slightly too sharp to be human. "You will." The world tilted sideways, the pain from her burns, the smoke in her lungs, the impossibility of what she was seeing, it all crashed together like converging waves. As darkness claimed her, the last thing she felt was him catching her as she fell, his arms impossibly strong, his eyes holding secrets she couldn't begin to imagine. When consciousness returned, it came slowly, like surfacing from deep water. Mira's first awareness was the absence of pain. Her back, which should have been agony from second-degree burns, felt merely warm. The iron collar that had chafed her neck for 17 years was gone. She bolted upright, hand flying to her throat, finding only smooth skin. Finally awake, she spun toward the voice. The man from the fire sat in shadows at the room's edge. Room was generous. They were in a cave, she realized, but one transformed into living space. Fur pelts covered the stone floor. Shelves had been carved into the walls, holding supplies and tools. Crystals embedded in the ceiling cast soft blue light, like captured moonlight. "Where?" her voice cracked. "What did you do to me?" "Healed you," he said, rising with fluid grace that reminded her he wasn't human. "The burns would have killed you by morning." "And my collar." His gaze intensified in a way that made her breath catch. "No one wearing my mark will ever wear another's." "Your mark." Mira's hand moved instinctively to her left shoulder, where new skin tingled. In the crystal light, she could see it. A crescent moon scar where the worst burn had been, but too perfect, too deliberate to be natural. "A protection," he said, moving closer. "Nothing more, unless you choose otherwise." "Unless what?" Instead of answering, he stopped 3 feet away. Even in worn leather pants and nothing else, he carried himself like royalty, like a man who had never questioned his right to command. "I am Connor Blackwood," he said, "Alpha of the Shadowcrest Pack. The cub you saved, Ash, is my brother's son." "Mira," she replied automatically, then asked the question burning in her throat. "You're werewolves, actual werewolves. Shapeshifters," he corrected. "Werewolf is a human word twisted by fear and legend. We are more ancient than such simple terms." He studied her with those luminous eyes, his head tilting slightly. "You're not afraid." It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. "I've seen real monsters. They wear silk and buy children for grain." Something shifted in his expression. Approval, perhaps, or recognition of a kindred spirit. A commotion outside drew their attention. Voices raised in argument, sharp and urgent. Then a woman entered, tall and severe, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a tight braid. Her eyes held the same moon-touched glow. "Connor," she said sharply, "the gathering has begun. They're demanding answers about the human." "I'm coming, Rhea," he replied, but his eyes stayed on Mira. "Wait," Mira said as he turned to leave. "What happens to me now? I can't return to the merchant quarter. Victor Cross believes you died in the fire," Connor interrupted. "He's already claiming compensation from the city council for his lost property. The casual cruelty of it, her death worth more to Victor than her life, shouldn't have stung. But it did. Then where do I go?" Connor paused at the cave entrance. "That depends on what you are. What I am, I'm nobody. You walk through fire for a shifter child," he said, turning back to face her. "You bear the moon mark without rejection. Your blood," he stopped himself, "the gathering will decide." He left her with more questions than answers. The woman, Rhea, remained, her gaze dissecting. "You truly don't know, do you?" she said finally. "Know what?" "Child?" Rhea approached, circling Mira like a predator assessing prey. No ordinary human could have survived those burns, not even with Connor's healing. No ordinary human's blood would accept an alpha's mark without violent rejection. She stopped in front of Mira, her expression softer than her words. "Tell me, what do you remember of your parents?" "Nothing," Mira said. "I was sold at 8 years old, by a woman who said I was payment for a debt." "Sold from where?" Mira struggled to remember. The memories were fog-obscured, distant. North. Somewhere north. "The merchant who sold me said I came from the northern territories, but..." A howl cut through the night so loud it seemed to shake the cave walls. Then another, and another. A chorus of inhuman voices raised in what sounded like alarm. Rhea's entire demeanor changed, her body tensed, muscles coiling. "Stay here," she commanded. Then she was shifting, her form rippling into that of a massive silver wolf. She raced from the cave without looking back. Mira had spent 17 years following orders. She counted to 10, listening to the howls multiply outside. Then she followed. The main cavern was chaos. Dozens of wolves, no, shifters in both forms, all facing the entrance where 3 figures in blood-red cloaks stood backlit by firelight. Royal guards, but not from any local kingdom. These bore the emblem of the Bloodcrest crown, the ancient wolf-killer kingdom from the far north. "By decree of His Majesty King Demon Bloodcrest," the center guard announced, his voice carrying over the assembled shifters, "we seek the lost Luna. Our seers have confirmed she lives. Return her and your pack will be spared." Connor, still in human form, stepped forward. "There is no lost Luna here." The guard smiled coldly. "Then you won't mind if we verify that ourselves." He pulled out a vial of silvery liquid that seemed to glow with its own internal light. "Moon-blessed water," he said, holding it up for all to see. "It reveals royal shifter blood. Shall we test everyone here?" Mira's crescent mark burned like ice. The sensation spread from her shoulder through her entire body, a cold fire that made her gasp. The guard's eyes swept the crowd and landed directly on her. "You there," he called out, pointing. "Step forward." Every shifter in the cavern turned to stare at her. Connor's expression was unreadable, but his body had tensed like a wolf before striking. "She's human," Rhea said quickly, moving to block Mira from view. "A refugee from the fire, nothing more." The guard's smile widened. "Then the moon-blessed water will prove it. Harmless to humans, after all." He uncorked the vial, and the scent that emerged made every shifter step back. It smelled of silver and starlight, of winter moons and ancient magic. But to Mira, it smelled of something else entirely. Home. It smelled like home she had never known. "No," she whispered. But her feet were already moving forward, drawn by something deeper than thought, older than memory. Connor caught her arm. "Don't," he said, low enough that only she could hear. "Whatever you are, whatever you're feeling, fight it." But the guard was already moving, flicking drops of the silvery water toward them. Where it hit Connor's skin, nothing happened. The water simply rolled off, inert. But when a single drop landed on Mira's scarred hand, light exploded from her skin, not painful, but overwhelming. Silver-white radiance filled the cavern like a detonation, sending everyone stumbling back, hands raised to shield their eyes. Mira stood at the epicenter, power pouring from her in waves she couldn't control, couldn't stop, couldn't understand. Through the light, she could see her skin changing. Scars she had carried for years were vanishing like morning frost under sunlight. Her matted, roughly cut hair was growing, transforming to silver white that matched the light pouring from her. And on her forehead, a mark was appearing, a lunar symbol that blazed like captured starfire. "The lost Luna," the guard breathed, dropping to one knee. Princess Mira Bloodcrest, daughter of the murdered Queen Seraphine, heir to the throne of wolves. His words cut off in a wet gurgle. Connor's hand was around his throat, lifting him off the ground. The alpha's form was already shifting, not fully wolf, but something in between, something monstrous and magnificent. "You will not take her," Connor snarled. The other two guards drew silver swords, but the pack was already moving. Rhea led the charge, her massive silver wolf form terrifying in its grace. The cavern erupted in violence, fangs against silver, claws against armor, ancient grudges given physical form. But Mira couldn't focus on the battle. The light inside her was building, 17 years of suppression breaking like a dam. Memories flooded back, not her own, but carried in her blood. A castle of white stone, a queen with silver hair singing lullabies about moon daughters. The night the assassins came, being bundled into a servant's arms, iron clasped around her throat to hide what she was, and something else. A younger child, barely walking, hidden in different arms. Sent east while Mira went south. 2 daughters, 2 chances for survival. "Make it stop!" Mira gasped, falling to her knees. The power was too much. It would tear her apart. She could feel it seeking release, and if it escaped uncontrolled, it would kill everyone, guard and shifter alike. Strong arms wrapped around her from behind. Connor, still partially transformed, pulled her against his chest. His voice was rough, more growl than words, but steady. "Listen to my voice," he commanded. "The power isn't your enemy. It's been caged like you were. Don't fight it. Guide it." "I don't know how." "You do." His breath was hot against her ear. "You walked through fire for Ash. You chose to save rather than survive. That's who you are. Not this power. The power serves you. You don't serve it." His words anchored her in the storm. The chaotic energy began to spiral inward rather than out, following the path of her will rather than her fear. She focused on Connor's heartbeat against her back, steady as a metronome, on Rhea's fierce protectiveness, on young Ash, watching from behind a larger wolf with those luminous eyes, on choosing life over death. The blinding light condensed, focused, controlled. When she opened her eyes, the battle had stopped. Everyone, shifter and guard alike, was staring at her in awe. She stood in a circle of crystallized moonlight. The cave floor had transformed to silver glass beneath her feet, spreading outward in geometric patterns like frost on a window. The remaining guards were backing toward the entrance, their weapons lowered. "Tell your king," Mira heard herself say, though the voice seemed to come from somewhere ancient, that the lost Luna lives, but she is not lost anymore. The guards fled into the night. Silence descended, broken only by labored breathing and the drip of blood on stone. Then, one by one, the shifters began to kneel. Even Rhea, proud and fierce Rhea, lowered her head in recognition. "Don't," Mira said, panic replacing power. "Please, I don't even know what I am." "You're the last of the Bloodcrest line," Connor said, still standing beside her. Notably the only one not kneeling. "Your mother was Queen Seraphine, able to command all shifter packs. Your father was human, which made you an abomination to some, a bridge between worlds to others. They killed her because of me." "They killed her because she refused to let them kill you," Rhea said, rising. Her expression was softer now, the hostility replaced by something like wonder. "She sent you south with her most trusted servant, told her to hide you among humans until you were old enough to protect yourself. Your younger sister was sent east to be hidden differently." "Sister." The memory fragment suddenly made sense. The child in different arms. "We don't know what became of her," Rhea admitted. "She vanished into the Eastern Territories 15 years ago. As for the servant who had you, she either sold you herself or died trying to protect you, and someone else found a valuable child to sell." Connor's hand found her shoulder, steadying. "It doesn't matter now. What matters is you're here. You're alive, and the Bloodcrest crown knows it. They'll come for me." "Yes." "They'll destroy your pack trying to get to me." "Probably." She turned to face him, frustrated by his calm. "Then why aren't you throwing me out? Why did you fight for me?" His luminous eyes held hers, and for a moment she saw past the alpha exterior to something raw underneath. Because the moment you walked through fire for Ash, you became pack. And pack, his hand moved from her shoulder to cup her face, thumb tracing the celestial mark on her forehead. Pack is everything. The touch sent electricity through her entire body. Not the painful power of before, but something warm, something that made her lean into his palm despite herself. "Besides," he added with a wolfish grin, "do you really think I'd let the Bloodcrest crown take you back to be their puppet queen? You're far too interesting for that fate." A howl echoed from outside, a scout's warning. More were coming. "We need to move," Rhea said urgently. "The deeper caves." "No," Mira interrupted, surprising herself with the authority in her voice. "I'm done running. I've been running since I was 8 years old." She looked at the assembled pack, these strangers who had fought for her. Then at Connor, who still hadn't removed his hand from her face. "Teach me," she said. "Teach me what I am, what this power means." And when they come again, the lunar symbol on her forehead pulsed with cold fire. "We'll be ready." Connor studied her for a long moment, then smiled, a real smile, not the predatory grin of before. "As you wish, Princess." "Mira," she corrected. "Just Mira." "Just Mira," he agreed. And somehow her name on his lips sounded like a promise, a claim, and a challenge all at once. Another howl, closer now. The pack tensed, ready to fight or flee at their alpha's command, but Connor's eyes never left hers. "What is the Luna command?" he asked. The title should have felt wrong. She had been property, nobody, a purchased girl worth a bag of grain. But standing there, surrounded by warriors who had bled for her, power singing in her veins, a wolf king awaiting her word, she felt something shift inside her. "We prepare," she said. And every wolf in the cavern howled their approval to the moon above. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of training and revelation. Connor was relentless, pushing Mira past exhaustion every day. But she had survived 17 years of slavery. She knew how to endure. The training ground was a natural amphitheater carved into the mountain, open to the sky but sheltered from wind. Connor circled her in human form while she struggled to maintain her defensive stance, her muscles screaming from hours of repetition. Again, he commanded, "I need a break." He lunged, not with wolf speed but fast enough that she barely dodged, stumbling backward over the rocky ground. His hand caught her wrist, spinning her around until her back pressed against his chest, his arm across her throat in a hold that wasn't quite threatening. "The Bloodcrest Guard won't give you breaks," he said against her ear, his breath making her shiver despite the mountain cold. "They've been hunting you for 17 years. When they come, I'll have power," she interrupted, trying to ignore how her body fit against his, how his heartbeat felt through her back. "Power you can't control is worse than no power at all." He released her, stepping back. "Show me your light." Mira closed her eyes, reaching for that silver fire within. It came eagerly, too eagerly. Light erupted from her skin, wild and undirected, spreading in waves that made Connor grab her shoulders. "Focus," he ordered, his grip grounding. "The moon doesn't burn everything it touches. It illuminates. It guides. Be the moon. Don't let it be you." "Easy for you to say," she gasped, struggling to contain the energy. "You were born to this." "Was I?" His hands tightened on her shoulders. "I was bitten at 15. Attacked by a rabid shifter while on patrol in Helmand Province. Everything I am, I had to learn through pain and failure." The admission shocked her enough that the light flickered. She opened her eyes to find him watching her with an expression she had never seen before, vulnerable, almost tender. "You were human once." He released her, the moment passing, found half dead in the mountains. "Rhea taught me control, just as I'm teaching you." Before she could respond, a young shifter burst into the amphitheater. Iris, one of the scouts, her face flushed from running. "Alpha," she panted. "Merchants in the valley. They have captives, wolf children." Connor's entire demeanor changed, the teacher replaced by the predator. "How many?" 6 children, 4 merchants. They're heading to Victor Cross's compound." Mira's blood turned to ice. "Victor's compound. But he thinks I'm dead." "He survived the fire and rebuilt quickly," Iris confirmed. "He's expanded his trade, says he's collecting exotic animals for the northern kingdoms." "He's selling shifter children," Mira breathed. Then louder, "We have to stop them." "We will," Connor said, already moving. "Gather the—" "No," Mira surprised herself with the command. "Let me go." Both Connor and Iris stared at her. "I know Victor's compound better than anyone," she continued. "Every secret passage, every guard rotation from my years there, every weakness." "Absolutely not," Connor said flatly. "You can barely control your power." "Then come with me." She stepped closer to him. "Just us. A full pack will be noticed, but 2 people we can get in, free the children and get out before—" A child's scream echoed up from the valley, carried on the mountain wind. Connor's control shattered. His form rippled, wolf rising to the surface, then forcing it back down with visible effort. When he spoke, his voice was more growl than words. "Fine, but you follow my lead." They descended the mountain as the sun set, Mira in a borrowed cloak, Connor shifting between forms as needed. The rebuilt merchant compound squatted in the valley like a scar on the landscape. Higher walls than before, new iron gates, but the same stench of misery Mira knew too well. "The servants' entrance," she whispered, leading him to a section of wall. Same weak point as always. Victor never learns. They slipped through into shadows ripe with memory. Every corner held ghosts. The post where she had been disciplined for stealing bread. The courtyard where she had slept with the dogs during winter. The well where she had drawn water until her hands bled. "Focus," Connor murmured, sensing her distress through whatever connection was forming between them. The children were in iron cages in the central courtyard, 6 wolf pups huddled together, too exhausted or terrified to maintain human form. A single guard dozed at his post, confident in the compound's security. Then Mira saw who was examining the children through the bars, making notes on a ledger, and her control nearly shattered entirely. Victor Cross, older, wealthier, dressed in fine merchant silks, but unmistakably the man who had owned her for 17 years. He was poking at the pups with a stick, laughing when they whimpered. "The northern lords will pay triple for young ones," he was saying to another merchant. "Easier to break, easier to train. Though I had one once, little silver-haired thing. Never could fully break her. Still have the scars from where she bit me." He laughed, a sound that made Mira's skin crawl. "Should have killed her when I had the chance. Probably dead in that fire anyway. Shame. That one and her sister could have set me up for life." Rage, white-hot and absolute, flooded through Mira. The crescent brand on her forehead began to burn with cold fire. "No," Connor whispered urgently, his hand finding hers in the darkness. "Not yet." But it was too late. Victor had noticed them, his piggy eyes widening in shock as Mira stepped into the torchlight, letting her hood fall back. "You," he breathed. "You're supposed to be dead. I saw the burned collar in the ruins myself." Disappointed, Mira stepped fully into the courtyard, her silver-white hair gleaming like starlight in the torch glow. "Guards!" Victor shrieked. "Guards to me!" They came running, a dozen men with crossbows and silver-tipped bolts, the upgraded security of a merchant who dealt in dangerous goods. Connor shifted instantly, massive wolf form positioning between Mira and the weapons, a shield of fur and muscle and absolute loyalty. "The Grain Girl lives," Victor sneered, gaining confidence with his guards present. "And she brought a pet. Kill the wolf. Take her alive. She's worth a dead fortune to the Bloodcrest crown now." The guards raised their crossbows. Time slowed. Mira saw the bolts release, saw Connor bunch his muscles to leap, saw death coming for them both. And the moon answered her fury. The silver light that exploded from Mira wasn't the wild, uncontrolled burst of before. This was focused, purposeful, protective. It struck the crossbow bolts mid-flight, disintegrating them to ash before they could reach Connor. The wave continued outward, and when it hit the guards, they collapsed, not dead but unconscious, their weapons clattering uselessly to the ground. Victor stumbled backward, his face purple with terror. "Monster!" he gasped. "Monster!" Mira advanced on him, her entire being radiating cold silver light. "You bought an 8-year-old child for grain. You worked her until her hands bled. You put her in cages with animals when she displeased you. You beat her, starved her, sold her childhood for profit." She raised her hand, and Victor rose with it, suspended in her power like an insect in amber. "You were property," Victor whimpered. "You were nothing." "I was never nothing." The lunar symbol on her forehead blazed brighter. "I was Mira Bloodcrest, lost Luna, daughter of Queen Seraphine, and you put a collar on me like a dog." Her power pulsed, and the cages holding the wolf pups shattered. They tumbled free, immediately running to Connor, who had shifted to human form and was herding them protectively behind him while keeping his eyes on Mira. "Mira!" His voice cut through her rage. "That's enough." "Is it?" She turned her glowing eyes to him, Victor still suspended between them. "Do you know what he does to the ones who don't sell? Do you know what happens to shifter children who can't control their changes, who are too broken to be profitable?" "I know," Connor said quietly. His hand found her shoulder, warmth against her cold fire. "But if you kill him like this, in cold blood, you become what they say we are, monsters." The light around Victor flickered as she wrestled with her rage. "He deserves—" "Yes," Connor agreed, "but you deserve better than to be his executioner. And these children," he gestured to the 6 pups watching with luminous eyes, "they need to see mercy, not more violence." Voices echoed from beyond the walls, many voices, armed voices. The city watch, drawn by the commotion. Victor gasped out, "They'll kill you all!" Mira dropped him. He crumpled to the ground, gasping and sobbing. "Run," she told him. "Run far and fast and never trade in lives again, because next time I won't have someone to remind me of mercy." Victor scrambled away, slipping in his own terror, disappearing into the shadows of his compound. "We need to go," Connor said urgently. "Can you carry 2?" Mira looked at the 6 pups, then at him, confused. He shifted, not to wolf, but to that in-between form she had seen once before. Magnificent and terrible, he scooped up 4 pups in his massive arms. Understanding, Mira grabbed the remaining 2, and they ran. Behind them, guards flooded the compound, but they were already over the wall, already disappearing into the forest, already gone. The pups clung to them, whimpering. Mira found herself humming that lullaby again, the one rising from genetic memory her conscious mind didn't hold. The pups calmed, their small bodies relaxing against her. They didn't stop until they reached the foothills. Connor set down his charges and shifted back, immediately checking each pup for injuries. Mira watched him work, gentle despite his size, and something warm bloomed in her chest that had nothing to do with power. "They're from the Eastern Pack," he said grimly. "Taken in a raid 3 weeks ago. Their families are probably dead." "Then they'll join yours," Mira said, "if they choose." He looked up at her, and his expression made her breath catch. "That was extraordinary. What you did back there. The control, the precision. I almost killed him. But you didn't." Connor stood, moving closer. "You found the line between justice and revenge. That's what makes a true Luna. Not just power, but wisdom." "I'm not really a Luna. I'm just the woman who walked through fire for a strange pup," Connor interrupted. "Who faced down the man who enslaved her. Who saved 6 children tonight." His hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her celestial mark. "You're exactly who you're meant to be." The pups had fallen asleep in a pile, exhausted. The moon was rising full and bright, casting silver light across the mountain, and Connor was looking at her like she was something precious, something worth protecting, something— "Connor," she whispered. He leaned closer, and for a moment she thought, hoped, he might kiss her. Then a howl split the night. Not a warning, but a summons. Urgent, desperate. "The pack!" Connor said, pulling back. "Something's wrong." They ran again, this time with the pups following in a stumbling line. The base of the mountain was chaos when they arrived. Shifters in both forms, some bleeding, all agitated. Rhea met them, her face grim. "Bloodcrest soldiers," she reported. 50 of them. With silver weapons and mountain ash, they've made camp at the valley's entrance. Demanding, Connor asked, "The Luna. They say they'll burn the forest if she's not delivered by dawn." Rhea paused, her expression darkening. "And Connor, they claim to have her sister." Every eye turned to Mira. "My sister," her voice cracked. "A girl named Mira Ashford, 15 years old, silver hair hidden with dye. They say she's been in the palace all along, raised as a servant." Rhea's expression was carefully neutral. "They'll trade her life for yours." The pack fell silent, the weight of impossible choice pressing down on them all. "It's a trap," Connor said flatly. "Of course it's a trap," Mira agreed. "But if there's even a chance she's real, that she's been trapped there all this time because of what I am, then we get her out," Connor said, surprising everyone. "But not by sacrificing you." "How?" someone asked. "The palace is a fortress." Mira's mind was already working. Tactical patterns formed from 17 years of observation. Not during normal times. But 3 days from now is the Bloodmoon Festival. The palace opens to all for the celebration. Masks, costumes, even shifters could walk among them unnoticed. "It's still dangerous," Rhea argued. "Everything we do now is dangerous." Mira turned to address the pack. "But I'm done being reactive. Done running, done hiding. If they want to play games with innocent lives," she looked at the 6 pups they had just rescued, "then let's change the rules." She met each pack member's eyes in turn. "We go to the festival, not in secret, openly, peacefully. Let the common people see that we're not monsters, that we're not the enemy. And if this sister exists," Connor added, understanding lighting his features, "we find her and offer her the choice your mother never got." Another howl echoed from outside, a scout's warning. "They're moving," Rhea reported, "surrounding us from all sides." Connor shifted partially, scenting the air. His expression darkened. Not just soldiers. They brought hunters. The pack's fear was palpable. Hunters. Elite killers trained specifically to track and destroy shifters. The nightmares made flesh. "How long until dawn?" Mira asked, her voice steady despite the terror clawing at her throat. 6 hours, Rhea answered. 6 hours to find a miracle. Mira's mark pulsed, and with it came a memory from her bloodline. A desperate night much like this one, surrounded by enemies. Her mother's voice, young and fierce, making an impossible choice. "The Luna's call," Mira said suddenly. Every shifter went rigid, as if she had blasphemed. "That's myth," Rhea said carefully. "Legend." "Is it?" Mira looked at Connor. "Tell me about the Luna's call." He was watching her with something between awe and terror. Legend says a true Luna can call all shifters to her aid, not just her pack, but every shifter within 100 miles. One voice, one command, impossible to refuse. "But," Mira prompted. "But the last Luna who tried it died," Connor said quietly. "The power required, it consumed her, burned her out from the inside." Mira nodded slowly, her decision already made. "Then I'd better not fail." She walked to the cavern center, ignoring the protests behind her. The moon was directly overhead now, its light streaming through the cave's openings like celestial spotlights. "Mira," Connor started, reaching for her. "Do you trust me?" she asked without turning. Silence, then quietly with everything. She smiled, though he couldn't see it. "Then let me save our family." Mira raised her arms to the moon and opened herself completely to its light. The power flooded in, not just her own, but something older, deeper. The voice of every Luna who had come before, carried in her blood, waiting for this moment. The call that erupted from her throat wasn't quite a howl, wasn't quite a scream. It was primal, commanding, undeniable. It rolled across the mountains like thunder, through the valleys like wind, into the bones of every shifter who heard it. And they answered. The first response came from the east, a lone howl that multiplied into 5, then 20. From the north, an entire pack's voice raised an answer. West, south, from every direction, the responses cascaded like dominoes across the mountain range. Mira stood at the epicenter, silver light pouring from her in waves. Each response strengthened her, each pack's acknowledgement feeding back into the call. But Connor had been right. The power required was immense. She could feel it pulling at her life force, threatening to hollow her out from the inside, to burn through her like wildfire through dry grass. "Hold on," Connor's voice, distant through the roaring in her ears. His arms wrapped around her from behind, his chest solid against her back. "I've got you. We've all got you." She felt it then, the pack bond forming. Not just Connor, but every member of Shadow Crest, linking their strength to hers, Rhea's fierce determination, the pup's innocent trust, even the newly rescued children adding their small lights to her blazing star. Together, they held her as the call reached its crescendo. Together, they kept her anchored to life as power enough to shatter mountains poured through her fragile human form. And the wolves came, hundreds of them, emerging from the darkness, converging on their position. The Bloodcrest soldiers, so confident with their 50 men and silver weapons, suddenly faced an army. It was extraordinary, Connor breathed against her ear. Through the shared consciousness of the call, Mira could see through every shifter's eyes simultaneously. The terrified soldiers forming defensive circles, their silver weapons suddenly inadequate against sheer numbers. The hunters among them, 5 figures in black, unmoved by the approaching wolves. And the one in the center, his face cruel and familiar from her inherited memories. Castor Bloodcrest, King Demon's brother, the man who had helped orchestrate her mother's murder, who had spent 17 years hunting for 2 lost princesses. Through the call, Mira heard his voice, amplified and clear. "Release the Moonbane." The hunters threw something into the air, a fine silver powder that sparkled in the moonlight. Where it touched the approaching wolves, they collapsed, shifting involuntarily back to human form, writhing in agony. "Did you think we came unprepared?" Castor's voice carried on the wind. "I've hunted your kind for 2 decades. I know every weakness, every limitation. Even the Luna's call can be broken." He was right. The connection was fragmenting as more wolves fell to the Moonbane. The power drain was becoming critical. Black spots danced in Mira's vision. Her legs were giving out. "Mira," Connor turned her to face him, his eyes blazing with emotion and desperation. "There's another way." "What?" she gasped, barely able to form words. "The mate bond. If you accept it, our power becomes yours. Not just strength, but stability. Anchor." He gripped her shoulders, holding her upright. "Among our kind, the bond is sacred. It amplifies both partners' abilities." She understood immediately what he was offering. Among shifters, a mate bond was permanent, unbreakable, forged in power and sealed in blood. It would tie her to him, to this pack, forever. "No more running, no more solitude, no more being alone." "You don't have to," she started. "I want to," Connor interrupted fiercely. "I've wanted to from the moment you walked through fire for Ash. You are my mate, Mira Bloodcrest. The only question is whether I'm yours." The moonbane was spreading through her army like plague. More wolves were falling. Soon, Castor's forces would reach the cavern, would kill everyone she had come to care for, would take her back to the palace, would— "Yes," she whispered. Then louder, with absolute certainty, "Yes." Connor kissed her, and the world exploded into silver fire. The mate bond snapped into place like lightning striking the same point twice. Not painful, but overwhelming in its completeness. Mira felt Connor flood into her consciousness, not just his physical presence, but his soul laid bare. His wolf recognized something in her that wasn't wolf at all, something ancient and lunar and utterly unprecedented, and she felt herself pouring into him. Her Luna power, her memories, her pain, her determination, all of it cascading through the bond like water finding its level. Connor staggered, his hybrid form flickering as her lunar energy surged through him. Mira gasped as his wolf's strength anchored her, preventing the Luna's call from consuming her entirely. The silver light that had been burning her out from within suddenly had a ground, a conduit, a partner to share the impossible load. Together they held the call. Through their joined consciousness, Mira felt Connor's tactical mind overlaying her raw power. He was directing it, channeling it, with the precision of a man who had commanded troops under fire. The Luna's call stopped being a wildfire and became a scalpel, reaching past the moonbane, touching each fallen wolf individually, healing them with surgical accuracy. The approaching army of shifters surged forward with renewed strength. The moonbane that had seemed so devastating moments before was now merely an inconvenience, neutralized by Luna power flowing through alpha discipline. Castor's confident expression crumbled as he watched his advantage evaporate. "Retreat," he commanded his forces. "Fall back to secondary positions." But the shifters were already among them, not killing, but disarming, separating the soldiers from their silver weapons with coordinated pack tactics that spoke of Connor's military training spread through the bond to every wolf present. Mira watched through 100 pairs of eyes as Castor himself tried to flee, only to find his path blocked by Rhea in her massive silver wolf form. The pack second's teeth were bared, and her meaning was clear. "You're not leaving." Then, through the chaos, Mira felt something else. A consciousness touching the edge of her awareness, young and terrified and achingly familiar. A girl, 15 years old, locked in an iron cage in Castor's command tent, her mind reaching out instinctively toward the Luna's call she could feel but not understand. "Lena," Mira breathed. Connor felt it too, their thoughts now flowing seamlessly together. "Your sister. She's here. And she's waking up," Connor added grimly. "Whatever they've been dosing her with to suppress her nature, the call is burning through it." "We have to get to her," Mira said. "I know." Through the bond, she felt him making tactical decisions at lightning speed. "Rhea," he projected through the pack link, "secure Castor. Ranulph, disarm the hunters. Everyone else, defensive perimeter. Mira and I are going for the girl." They moved as one, Myra's moonlight form and Connor's hybrid shape flowing through the battlefield like water through stone. Soldiers scattered before them, unwilling to face the mated pair's combined power. The command tent was heavily guarded, but the guards were already engaged with pack wolves. Connor took down 2 in seconds, non-lethal strikes that left them unconscious, but breathing. Mira's light wrapped around the others, putting them to sleep with the gentleness of moonlight on closed eyes. Inside they found her. Lena Ashford was small for 15, years of malnutrition having stunted her growth the same way it had Mira's. Her silver hair had been dyed a muddy brown, and iron shackles bound her wrists and ankles. But her eyes, when they opened, were pure luminous amber. Not wolf eyes, fox eyes. Sister, Lena whispered, her voice cracking. The visions showed me. You'd come. Fire and moonlight. I saw you. Mira knelt beside this cage, her power reaching out to shatter the lock. The iron fell away like paper. I'm here. You're safe now. Lena tried to stand but collapsed, her legs too weak. Connor caught her, his hybrid form shifting back to human as he lifted her carefully. She's been drugged, he said, his medical training from his Marine days evident in how he checked her pupils, her pulse. Suppressants, heavy dose. It's a miracle she's conscious at all. The call woke me, Lena said, her amber eyes finding Mira's. Burned through everything they gave me. I felt you, felt the pack. Felt, she looked at Connor, him, your mate. Yes, Mira said softly. This is Connor. She paused, not sure how to explain. Alpha, Lena finished. Shadow Crest Pack. Former Marine, bitten at 15, suffers nightmares about Helmand Province. And he's completely in love with you even if he hasn't said it yet. Connor nearly dropped her. How do you? He started. I see things, Lena said simply. Pieces of the future, possibilities. It's been happening since I was little, but the palace mages, they drugged me to make it stop. Said my visions were dangerous. Because you could see their plans, Mira realized. You were a threat. Lena nodded. I saw you coming 3 days ago. Saw this moment. Saw what comes after. The battle sounds outside were diminishing. Through the bond, Connor relayed information. We have Castor. The hunters are contained. Casualties minimal on both sides, but we need to move. Royal reinforcements will come. Not yet, Lena said urgently. There's something you need to know. Something I saw that changes everything. What? Mira asked. In 3 days, the Blood Moon Festival. King Demon will drink moon-blessed water in front of the entire kingdom. He thinks it will make him powerful like you. But I saw what really happens. She shuddered. It's not transformation. It's corruption. He becomes, she struggled for words, wrong. A composite thing. Multiple animals fused together. An abomination. Mira and Connor exchanged glances through the bond. That's our opportunity, Connor said. If he transforms publicly, shows himself as a monster, it destroys his legitimacy. But how many will he kill before we can stop him? Mira countered. In his corrupted form, how powerful will he be? Very, Lena said quietly. I saw you fighting him, saw you winning, but only because, she hesitated. Because what? Connor demanded. Because you forgive him, Lena said, meeting Mira's eyes. In every vision where you win, you offer mercy. In every vision where you use only violence, you become like him. The abomination infects you, corrupts your Luna power. Mira felt sick. You're saying I have to forgive the man who murdered our mother, who hunted us for 17 years, who's been torturing you. I'm saying mercy is the only path where you survive, Lena said, where any of us survive. A commotion outside interrupted them. Ria's voice, sharp with urgency. Connor, Mira, we have a problem. They emerged from the tent to find Castor kneeling in the center of a circle of wolves, silver chains binding his wrists. But he was smiling. You think you've won, he said, his voice carrying across the assembled shifters. You think capturing me changes anything. He laughed. King Demon has already declared martial law. By dawn, every human city will know that shifters attacked royal forces unprovoked. You've just given him the excuse he's been waiting for. Genocide, Mira breathed. Exactly, Castor said. He's been preparing for this for years. Weapons caches, military contracts, propaganda campaigns. All he needed was justification. And you, he looked directly at Mira, just handed it to him. Through the bond, Mira felt Connor's tactical mind racing. He's right. We've played into Demon's hands. If we retreat now, we look guilty. If we attack, we prove his point. There's another option, Lena said, still weak in Connor's arms but her voice steady. We go public first, before he can control the narrative. How? Ria demanded. The festival, Lena said. It's not just a palace event. It's open to all citizens. Thousands will attend. If we arrive openly, peacefully, and challenge him before witnesses, we control the story. They'll never let us into the palace, someone argued. They can't refuse, Lena countered. Festival law. Anyone can attend, no matter their birth or station. It's ancient tradition. Even Demon won't break it openly. It's still suicide, Ria said flatly, walking into his stronghold. It's the only way, Mira said, certainty growing in her chest. We show the people that we're not monsters, that we want peace, and when Damon reveals his corruption, they'll see the truth. And if he kills you first, Connor asked through the bond, then you'll avenge me, she replied. But I don't think he will. I think he wants to break me publicly, wants to prove that Luna power means nothing against his stolen strength. Castor was watching them with calculating eyes. You're actually considering this insanity. We are, Mira said, and you're going to help us. Why would I help you? Because Lena saw two futures, Mira said, the lie forming smoothly. In one, we kill you here tonight. In the other, you help us. And when Damon falls, you live. Choose. Castor studied her for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he laughed. You're a better liar than your mother. Fine. I'll help. Not because I believe your sister's visions, but because I've seen what my brother's become. The experiments, the obsession. He's not fit to rule anymore. We have 3 days, Connor said, shifting to commander mode. Rhea, I want perimeter security tripled. Ranulph, organize scouts to monitor royal troop movements. Everyone else, rest and recovery in shifts. We're going to need every wolf at full strength. The pack dispersed to follow orders, leaving Mira, Connor, Lena, Castor, and Rhea standing in the pre-dawn darkness. The girl needs medical attention, Rhea said, eyeing Lena. I can smell the suppressants in her blood. It's a miracle she's alive. I'm tougher than I look, Lena said. But she swayed, and Connor adjusted his grip to keep her upright. Get her to the healing caves, Connor ordered. Mira and I need to debrief with Castor. No, Lena said. I stay with Mira. I just found my sister. I'm not letting her out of my sight. Mira felt warmth bloom in her chest. Okay, you stay, but you let Rhea examine you. Lena nodded, satisfied with the compromise. The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparation and growing tension. The Shadowcrest Caves transformed into something between a war camp and a refugee settlement, with 15 different packs now in residence, all answering the Luna's call. 300 wolves, each one ready to fight and die at Mira's command. But that was precisely what Mira didn't want. The first pack council meeting nearly ended in bloodshed. 15 alphas, each one accustomed to absolute authority within their own territory, all crammed into the main cavern arguing about hierarchy and protocol and who had the right to speak first. Enough! Connor's command voice cut through the chaos. His hybrid form, larger and more intimidating than any single alpha, demanded attention. You're here because the Luna called, not because you like each other, not because you agree on tactics, but because 200 years of persecution ends now, one way or another. A grizzled alpha from the northern pack, a man named Theron with more scars than skin, stood slowly. And who are you to command us, hybrid? You're not even pure blood. The insult hung in the air. Several alphas tensed, waiting for Connor's response. Mira rose before Connor could speak. You're right. Connor was bitten. Attacked by a rabid shifter while serving his country. He didn't choose this life. She walked toward Theron, moonlight casting silver shadows. Just like I didn't choose to be sold into slavery. Just like my sister didn't choose 15 years of imprisonment. Just like those 6 pups didn't choose to be caged. She stopped before him. None of us chose our pain, but we can choose what we do with it. We can let it divide us, make us easy prey, or we can use it to build something stronger. Theron held her gaze, then laughed. Your mother would have said the same thing. He bowed his head. I acknowledge your authority, Luna. The other alphas followed suit, crisis averted. Connor organized the 300 wolves into tactical units, mixing packs to force cooperation. Scouts, defensive perimeter, quick reaction force, medical support. Each unit drilled relentlessly, learning to work together despite territorial animosity. Mira watched him work, marveling at how naturally command came to him. This was what he had been before the bite, a leader. The wolf had simply given him a new pack to protect. Through the bond, Connor felt her watching. Stop distracting me. You're beautiful when you're tactical, she teased. You're impossible, he replied, sending warmth through the link. Lena spent those 3 days in a different kind of training. Rhea worked with her to develop her visions, to extend their range and clarify their details. The fox nature that was emerging gave Lena advantages that wolf shifters didn't have. Her visions weren't just glimpses of possible futures. They were tactical precognition, seeing 3 to 5 minutes ahead with startling accuracy. During a training exercise, Lena suddenly grabbed Connor's arm. Stop! Don't send Second Squad through the Eastern Passage. Why not? Connor asked, halting the order. Cave in. 4 minutes from now. 3 wolves injured, 1 critical. Connor diverted the squad and sent engineers to assess. They found the stress fracture Lena predicted, exactly where she said it would be. After that, no one questioned her visions. But Mira noticed that each vision left Lena drained, her young face growing more haggard. The suppressants were still working their way out of her system, and the visions were taxing what little strength she had left. "You need to rest," Mira told her sister on the second evening. "You're pushing too hard." "I see what happens if I don't push," Lena replied. "I see us walking into traps I could have warned us about. I see people dying because I was too tired to look ahead." She met Mira's eyes, her own amber gaze fierce. "I just found you. I'm not losing you because I needed a nap." Mira pulled her sister into a hug. "You're not going to lose me. We're going to walk into that festival together, all three of us, you, me, and Connor, a family." Lena hugged back fiercely. "Promise. I promise." They spent the rest of the evening planning in what had become their war room, a smaller cave where maps and intelligence reports covered every surface. Castor, surprisingly, proved invaluable, providing details about palace layout, guard positions, and demons' habits with the clinical precision of a career military officer. "The palace has 3 defensive rings," Castor explained, pointing to a hand-drawn map. "Outer walls with 20 guards, rotating every 4 hours. Inner courtyard with another 30, plus roving patrols. And the throne room itself, always guarded by Demon's personal detail, his best fighters." "How many in the personal detail?" Connor asked, studying the map with tactical intensity. 12, all veterans, all loyal. They won't hesitate to kill on Demon's order." "And during the festival?" Mira asked. "Doubled," Castor said. "He's paranoid, has been for years. He'll expect an attack, so he'll have 60 guards minimum in the throne room alone." "Then we don't go to the throne room," Lena said. "We stay in the courtyard, public space, witnesses everywhere. He can't attack us there without showing his true nature to thousands of people." "Unless he doesn't care about witnesses anymore," Connor argued. "If he's planning genocide anyway, what's a few more deaths?" "He cares about legitimacy," Castor said quietly. "My brother, for all his madness, believes he's the righteous one, believes shifters are the corruption and he's the cure. He needs the people to see him as a hero, not a tyrant. That's why he'll drink the moon water publicly. He wants to prove that human will can master shifter nature." Mira studied Castor across the table. "Why are you helping us?" "Really? It's not just because you think Demon's unfit. You were loyal to him for decades." Castor was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. "I had a daughter 20 years ago. She was bitten. A rogue shifter attack during a family camping trip. She was 12. The cave went very quiet. I brought her to Demon," Castor continued. "Begged him to help her learn control, to find a cure. He said he would. Said he'd take care of her." Mira's stomach dropped. "Oh no." "He experimented on her for 6 months," Castor said, tears streaming down his weathered face, trying to extract her essence, to understand the transformation. "She screamed every day, begged me to save her, and I let him because I believed he was trying to help." "What happened to her?" Lena asked softly. "She died on the table," Castor whispered, in agony. "And Damon, he just wrote down his observations, noted the time of death, moved on to the next subject. He didn't even pause, didn't even apologize." "I've spent 20 years trying to justify it," Castor said, "telling myself it was for the greater good, that her sacrifice meant something. But watching him become this monster, I finally see the truth. There was no greater good, just a broken man torturing innocents because he couldn't face his own pain." He looked at Mira with haunted eyes. "Your mother tried to tell me, tried to warn me that Demon was losing himself. But I was too loyal, too blind. I helped him kill her, and I've regretted it every day since." Mira felt Connor tense beside her, felt his protective anger through the bond. But she also felt something else, the weight of Castor's guilt, the genuine anguish of a man who had realized too late that he had served evil. "I don't forgive you," Mira said clearly. "What you did, what you enabled, that's not something I can absolve. Too many people died." "I know," Castor said. "But I believe you want to stop him now," Mira continued. "And I believe your intelligence is accurate. So we'll work together, not as friends, not as family, but as people who want the same thing, Demon's reign to end." Castor nodded, accepting the terms. "That's more than I deserve." The planning continued late into the night, every detail debated, every contingency considered. Connor's military training combined with Castor's insider knowledge produced a plan that was audacious, dangerous, and just might work. As the others finally dispersed to get what rest they could, Connor found Mira standing alone at the cave mouth, watching the last moon before the festival rise over the valley. "Thinking about tomorrow," he said, wrapping his arms around her. "Thinking about forgiveness," she replied. "I told Castor I don't forgive him, but I forgave Victor. I'm supposed to forgive Demon. Where's the line, Connor? How do I know who deserves mercy and who doesn't?" Connor was quiet for a moment, his chin resting on her head. "I don't think it's about who deserves it. Mercy's not a reward for good behavior. It's a choice you make about who you want to be. But some things are unforgivable." "Maybe," Connor said. "Or maybe forgiveness isn't about them at all. Maybe it's about you, about refusing to let their darkness poison your light. You forgave Victor because holding on to that rage would have destroyed you. You'll forgive Demon for the same reason." He turned her to face him. "But you don't have to forgive Castor. Not if it would hurt you to do so. You're not obligated to absolve everyone who's sorry. You're allowed to protect yourself." Mira leaned into him, feeling his warmth through the bond. "What if I can't do it tomorrow? What if I can't forgive Demon when the moment comes?" "Then we fight," Connor said simply. "And we win or we don't, but I'll be beside you either way." She kissed him then, pouring her fear and her hope and her desperate love through the bond. He kissed back with equal intensity, and for a few moments nothing existed except the two of them. When they finally broke apart, Lena was standing a respectful distance away, her amber eyes glowing in the moonlight. "Sorry to interrupt, but I thought you should know. I just had another vision." "What did you see?" Mira asked. "Tomorrow, the festival. Everything goes according to plan until—" She paused. "Until the crowd starts to turn. Some of them want peace, but others, Demon's loyalists, they try to attack you before you can challenge him." "How many?" Connor asked, immediately tactical. "Maybe 50. Armed with silver weapons, hidden among the festival goers." "So we'll have our wolves ready," Connor said. "No," Lena said. "If we bring obvious protection, it proves Demon's point, that we're violent, that we can't be trusted." She looked at Mira. "You have to walk in defenseless, have to let them see you're not a threat. And when the loyalists attack, you have to not fight back." "That's suicide," Connor said flatly. "That's faith," Lena countered. "Faith that the people will see the truth, that they'll protect you instead of attacking you." "And if they don't," Connor demanded. "Then I die," Mira said quietly. "But the idea dies with me. The possibility of peace, of unity. If I fight back, if I prove that I'm just another warlord with power, then Demon's already won." Connor's anguish flooded through the bond. "I can't, Mira. I can't watch you die." "You won't," she said with more confidence than she felt. "Because the people will choose peace. I have to believe that." The three of them stood together in the moonlight, bound by blood and bond and desperate hope, watching the last night before everything changed. The morning of the Bloodmoon Festival dawned clear and cold. Mira dressed in borrowed finery, a silver gown that matched her hair, simple but elegant. Connor wore formal attire that emphasized his military bearing, dark and severe. Lena had chosen white, a deliberate contrast to her dyed brown hair, which was already showing silver roots. 20 of them made the journey, pack leaders and their mates, all unarmed as Lena had foreseen. They traveled openly, on the main road, while the remaining 280 wolves spread through the forest in defensive positions. The city was already packed with festival-goers when they arrived. Humans in colorful clothes, children with painted faces, merchants selling food and trinkets. The atmosphere was celebratory, almost frantic, as if the entire kingdom was trying to ignore the mounting tensions. When Mira's delegation entered the city gates, silence spread like ripples in a pond. People stared, some with fear, some with curiosity, some with something that looked almost like hope. A small child, perhaps 5 years old, broke free from her mother's grip and ran toward Mira. The girl's mother screamed, terrified, but the child just held out a wilted flower. "For the Luna," the girl said solemnly, "like in the old stories." Mira knelt, accepting the flower with shaking hands. "Thank you," she whispered. The child smiled and ran back to her mother, who stood frozen in shock. Then slowly, the mother bowed her head. Not in submission, but in acknowledgement. Others followed suit. Not everyone, not even most, but enough to matter. Connor's hand found Mira's through the bond. She felt his pride and his terror in equal measure. They walked through the city toward the palace, and the crowds parted before them like the sea before ancient legends. Some people cheered, some cursed. Most just watched, trying to understand what they were seeing. The palace gates were open for the festival, as tradition demanded. Guards lined the approach, hands on weapons but not drawn. They looked nervous, uncertain, waiting for orders that hadn't come. Mira led her delegation through the gates and into the palace courtyard, where King Demon Bloodcrest waited. He was smaller than she had imagined, perhaps 5'9", barrel-chested and graying. But his eyes, those were the eyes from her nightmares, cold and calculating and utterly without mercy. "Niece," he said, his voice carrying across the courtyard. Thousands of festival attendees had followed them into the palace grounds, unwilling to miss whatever was about to happen. "You look like your mother, before I had her killed." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The admission, so casual, so public, shocked even those who had suspected. "I've come to offer you a choice, Uncle," Mira said, her voice clear and steady. "Abdicate. End the persecution of shifters. Let there be peace between our peoples." Demon laughed. "Pretty words. But you're a child playing at politics. I am king by right of conquest and strength." "Then I challenge you," Mira said. The crowd fell silent. "By the old laws, any blood heir can claim the throne through combat. I am Mira Bloodcrest, daughter of Queen Seraphine, blood of the founding line, and I challenge your right to rule." The crowd erupted. This was unprecedented. A Luna challenging a king in public, before witnesses, using laws so ancient most people thought them legend. Demon's expression shifted, and for a moment Mira saw something almost like satisfaction, as if this was exactly what he had been waiting for. "Very well," he said, "but combat is so primitive. Let us make this interesting." He pulled out a vial of moon-blessed water, the same substance that had revealed Mira's nature weeks ago. "Do you know what this is?" he asked the crowd. "It's the sacred water," someone shouted. "That reveals shifter blood." "Oh, it does much more than that," Demon said. "I have been studying shifters for 20 years, taking their blood, distilling their essence, learning their secrets, and I have discovered something extraordinary." He held up the vial so everyone could see. With enough shifter blood, consumed and refined, a human can take their power, can become what they are, can surpass what they are. "That's forbidden." Castor stepped forward, his face pale. "Brother, the experiments were supposed to be research only. You didn't. You can't have—" "I have," Demon said. 200 shifters over 20 years, every drop of their essence extracted and concentrated. He shook the vial. "This is the culmination of 2 decades of work, the power of 200 wolves in one dose." "Don't," Castor breathed. "You don't know what it will do." "I know exactly what it will do," Demon said. He looked directly at Mira. "I will become stronger than any shifter, stronger than any Luna. I will show the people that human ingenuity triumphs over supernatural birth." He drank the entire vial. For a moment, nothing happened. The crowd held its breath. Then Demon screamed. His body convulsed, bones breaking and reforming with sounds like gunshots. His skin rippled, fur sprouting and receding in waves. But this wasn't transformation. This was mutation. Where Demon had stood, something rose. 15 feet tall, a nightmare composite of animal parts that should never exist together. 3 wolf heads snarling from a misshapen torso, bear claws the size of sword blades, eagle wings that beat the air with hurricane force, a serpent tail that lashed with venomous purpose. And from within the creature, voices screamed, hundreds of them. The stolen essences of every shifter Demon had consumed, trapped in his corrupted form, crying out for release. The crowd panicked, screaming, trying to flee. Guards scattered. Even Castor stumbled backward, horror written across his face. The creature that had been Demon laughed with 3 mouths simultaneously. "Behold," it said, its voice a chorus of agony, "the true king, the perfect predator, the fusion of human will and shifter strength." Its 6 eyes focused on Mira. "Come then, niece, challenge me now." Connor shifted immediately to his hybrid form, positioning himself between Mira and the abomination. The other pack leaders followed suit, a wall of muscle and fur and desperate courage. "No," Mira said, her hand on Connor's shoulder. "This isn't a fight we can win with claws." Through the bond, Connor's thoughts were crystal clear. "Then how do we win?" Lena's voice, small but certain. "Forgiveness. It's the only way." The creature lunged, impossibly fast for something so large. It crashed into the defensive line of shifters, scattering them like bowling pins. Connor took the brunt of the impact, his hybrid form thrown 30 feet, slamming into the palace wall with bone-breaking force. Through the bond, Mira felt his pain like her own, felt ribs crack, felt consciousness waver. "No!" she screamed. The abomination turned its attention to Lena, still weak from her captivity. "Foxblood," it said with demon's voice, "so rare, so precious. You will complete my collection." It reached for Lena with bare claws that could crush stone. Mira's power erupted, pure protective instinct. A barrier of moonlight formed between the creature and her sister, solid as steel, burning with cold fire. The abomination's claws struck the barrier and recoiled, smoking. "Interesting," it said. "The Luna defends, but can she attack?" It was baiting her, Mira realized, wanting her to strike, wanting her to use violence. "In every vision where you use only violence, you become like him," Lena had said. "The abomination infects you." Mira held her barrier but didn't attack. Around her, pack members were regrouping. Connor was pulling himself upright despite his injuries, determination overriding pain. "Fight me!" the abomination roared, frustrated. "Show your power. Show your rage. Prove you're worthy." "No," Mira said. The creature paused, all three heads tilting in confusion. "What?" "I won't fight you," Mira said, lowering the barrier. "I won't give you the battle you want." She began walking forward, unarmed, undefended, directly toward the monstrosity. "Mira," Connor's voice through the bond, anguished. "Don't." "Trust me," she replied. "Trust us." The abomination watched her approach, uncertain for the first time. "What are you doing?" "Ending this," Mira said. She was close enough now to see the faces shifting beneath the creature's skin, the stolen shifters trapped and suffering. "Uncle," she called out, knowing Demon could hear her. "Can you hear them? The ones you took, they're in agony." "They are my power," the creature snarled. "My strength." "They're people," Mira said. 200 people with families and lives and futures you stole. Can you hear them begging for release?" "Silence," the creature roared, lunging at her. Mira didn't flinch. The massive jaws closed around her, and the crowd screamed, but the teeth didn't pierce her skin. Couldn't pierce her skin. Luna power protected her, not as a barrier, but as simple immunity to violence born of corruption. She stood within the creature's mouth, moonlight form blazing, and reached out with her power, not to attack, but to touch, to connect, to speak to the stolen souls trapped within. "You're free," she whispered to them. "I forgive him for what he did, and I release you." The effect was immediate. The stolen essences, held together by Demon's will and guilt and shame, felt the forgiveness like a key turning in a lock. One by one they began to separate, to individualize, to remember who they had been. The creature screamed as its composite form started to unravel. "No," Demon's voice, desperate now. "They're mine, my power, my strength." "They were never yours," Mira said gently. She could see him now, the core of Demon beneath the abomination. A frightened old man who had come home from war broken and had spent 40 years trying to fill the emptiness with stolen power. "You killed my mother," she said, "hunted me and my sister, tortured hundreds of innocents. By any measure, you deserve death." The creature was dissolving around her now, animal parts evaporating like mist in sunlight. The stolen souls were departing, finally at peace, their voices changing from screams to something like gratitude. "But vengeance doesn't bring them back," Mira continued. "Violence doesn't heal what's broken, and I refuse to let your darkness corrupt my light." She stepped closer to the shrinking form, close enough to see tears on Demon's face as his humanity returned. "Uncle," she said softly, "you were a soldier once, an honorable man who did terrible things in war and never forgave himself. I see you, I understand, and I forgive you." The last of the abomination fell away. Demon collapsed to his knees, old and frail and utterly human. Tears streamed down his face. "Seraphine," he whispered, "your mother. I see her in you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "I know," Mira said, kneeling beside him. "It's over now. You're free." He died there in her arms, peacefully, the first peace he had known in 40 years. The stolen souls departed with him, finally released from their torment. The courtyard was silent. Thousands of witnesses had watched the impossible. A Luna offering forgiveness instead of vengeance, mercy instead of justice, and somehow, impossibly, winning. Then, one by one, people began to kneel, not just shifters, but humans too, not in submission, but in recognition of something they had thought lost forever, a leader who valued life over power. "Rise," Mira commanded, her voice carrying across the courtyard. "All of you. There will be no more kneeling." Connor limped to her side, his injuries already healing. Through the bond, she felt his love and his awe and his absolute pride in what she had done. Castor approached, his expression unreadable. He knelt, not before Mira, but beside his brother's body. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have stopped you years ago." "You did what you thought was right," Mira said. "We all did. Now we do better." She turned to address the crowd, human and shifter together. "My mother dreamed of a kingdom where we lived in peace, where children of both peoples could grow up without fear. Today, that dream begins." She held out her hand and Connor took it. One human, one shifter, mated and equal. "I claim the throne not by conquest, but by choice," Mira said. "I will rule with my mate beside me, with my sister as advisor, with any who wish to build instead of destroy. The old hatreds end here, the old divisions end here. We are one people, one kingdom, one future." The crowd erupted, cheers and arguments and shocked exclamations blending together. But beneath it all, there was hope, fragile and new, but real. Lena appeared at Mira's other side, her amber fox eyes gleaming. "I saw this," she said, "but I didn't believe it could be real. You actually did it." "We did it," Mira corrected, pulling her sister close. "All of us together." Rhea pushed through the crowd, bloodied but triumphant. "The hunters are secured. The royal guard has surrendered. The palace is ours." Mira looked at the palace rising behind them, at the city spreading below, at the faces of thousands of people watching to see what would happen next. "Then let's get to work," she said. "We have a kingdom to rebuild." The days that followed were a whirlwind of transformation. Diplomatic negotiations with neighboring kingdoms who watched nervously to see if the new regime would hold or crumble. Integration of shifter packs into the city guard proved more complex than anticipated, with mixed patrols requiring careful pairing and intensive training. The first week saw 17 incidents requiring Mira's direct intervention: a human sergeant who refused to take orders from his shifter partner, a wolf guard who shifted during an arrest and terrified a merchant family, a crowd that nearly rioted when they saw shifters in official uniforms patrolling their streets. Each crisis felt like it could shatter the fragile peace, but slowly it began to work. The human sergeant, after being rescued from an ambush by his shifter partner, requested to continue their pairing. The wolf guard learned control techniques from human colleagues. The crowds grew accustomed to mixed patrols, some even preferring them. Connor proved invaluable, his military experience translating perfectly to organizing the new government structure. He established clear chains of command that respected both human hierarchy and pack dynamics, created training programs that taught human guards about shifter instincts and shifter guards about human law enforcement. Lena's visions guided them through treacherous waters, her tactical precognition preventing disasters before they could unfold. She saw assassination attempts hours before they materialized. Allowing security to intercept would be killers without bloodshed. She predicted which ambassadors were sincere and which were gathering intelligence for hostile kingdoms. Her gift exhausted her, leaving her pale and shaking after each deep vision, but she refused to stop. "I see a future worth fighting for," she told Mira. "I'm not letting it slip away because I needed rest." Rhea managed the medical integration with characteristic efficiency, combining human medicine's diagnostic tools with shifter healing arts. The first collaborative surgery, a human doctor and shifter healer working together to save a child injured in a construction accident, became a symbol of what cooperation could achieve. Establishment of councils with both human and shifter representatives proved most contentious. Neither side trusted the other to govern fairly. The compromise came from an elderly human councilman who proposed dual approval. Any law affecting both species would require majority support from both human and shifter representatives separately. It was bureaucratic and slow and infuriating. It was also fair, and Mira became the bridge she was always meant to be: Luna and human, slave and queen, the woman who had walked through fire and emerged stronger. She mediated disputes with the patience of someone who had survived 17 years of slavery. She negotiated treaties with the tactical thinking Connor had taught her. She led with the compassion her mother had died protecting. The first major test came 2 weeks after coronation. A shifter merchant in the Eastern Quarter was accused of using supernatural strength to intimidate human competitors. The human merchants demanded his arrest. The shifter community prepared to defend him by force. Mira arrived to find two angry crowds facing each other, weapons visible on both sides. She walked into the space between them, alone, unarmed. "Tell me what happened," she said. "Tell me everything." The story emerged through angry shouts. The shifter merchant had been underselling his competitors, driving 3 human businesses to near bankruptcy. When confronted, he had demonstrated his strength by lifting a loaded cart over his head. The human merchants claimed it was a threat. The shifter claimed it was proving the cart's quality. 2 cultures, 2 interpretations, 1 incident. "This is what we're building," Mira said to both crowds. "A kingdom where misunderstanding doesn't have to mean violence." She turned to the human merchants. "He undercut your prices. That's competition, not crime. If you want to survive in this new market, adapt. Learn from shifter techniques. Partner with them." Then to the shifters. "Demonstrating strength in a human market, even with innocent intent, causes fear. Explain first. Demonstrate second. Give them time to adjust." And to everyone, we all have to try harder, be more patient, more understanding. Neither side was completely satisfied, which probably meant the judgment was fair. But they dispersed peacefully, which meant it worked. 3 weeks after the coronation, on a quiet evening when immediate crises had finally subsided, Mira stood with Connor on the palace balcony, watching the sun set over their transformed kingdom. Through the bond, she felt his contentment and his lingering worry and his deep, abiding love. She also felt something else, something new growing within her that the bond had detected before her conscious mind caught up. "What are you thinking?" Connor asked, his arms around her. "That we did it," she said. "Against all odds, we actually did it." "We did," Connor agreed, "but the work's not finished." "It never will be," Mira said. "But that's okay. We'll keep building, keep choosing mercy." She paused, feeling that new presence within her through the bond. Connor felt it too, his body going very still. "Mira," he whispered, are you?" Through the bond, she confirmed what they both sensed. New life, impossibly small, perhaps only days old, created in the crucible of their mate bond. "We're going to have a child," she said softly. Connor's arms tightened around her, careful despite the overwhelming emotion flooding through their connection. "How long?" "A few weeks maybe, since the mate bond formed. Ria will confirm tomorrow." Through the bond, his joy and terror washed over her in equal measure. A child. Our child. In this world we're still building. "That's why we build it," Mira said, "so she can grow up free, never property, never afraid." "She," Connor repeated, and she felt his smile against her hair. "Lena saw a girl," Mira admitted. "Silver hair and amber eyes. Fox nature like Lena. Strong like you. Stubborn like me." "Perfect," Connor whispered. "She'll be perfect." Far below, in the streets of the city, humans and shifters walked side by side, some still wary, some still hostile. But many, so many were trying, choosing hope over hate, building instead of destroying. The blood moon rose overhead, but it shone silver now, a new age, a new world, built on the radical belief that mercy could triumph over vengeance, that forgiveness held more power than hate, and that a woman once sold for grain could become the queen who changed everything. And within that queen, a daughter grew, the future made flesh. The next chapter of a story that had only just begun. 7 months had passed since the mate bond formed, 6 months since Demon's fall, and the coronation that changed everything. Mira stood at the window of what had once been the tyrant's private study, now converted into a planning room where the new government did its work. Her hand rested on her swollen belly, feeling the kicks of the daughter who would be born into a world her mother was still building. 6.5 months pregnant, and Ria insisted she should be resting. But Mira had spent 17 years of her life as property, motionless and obedient. Now that she was free, now that she had purpose, rest felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. Through the bond, she felt Connor before she heard him, his presence a constant warmth in the back of her mind. He entered carrying reports, his expression tired but satisfied. "The Northern Territories sent their official recognition," he said, setting the documents on the desk. "That makes 12 kingdoms now. They're calling us the Unified Realm." "And the southern holdouts?" Mira asked. "Still resistant," Connor admitted. "But their people are watching. Every day we don't descend into chaos is another day they question their leader's propaganda." Mira turned from the window to face her mate. He looked different now than the wary alpha she had met in the burning stable 7 months ago. The shadows under his eyes had lessened. The constant tension in his shoulders had eased. He still had nightmares about Helmand Province, still woke sometimes with her name on his lips and terror in his heart, but they were getting fewer. Healing, she had learned, was not a destination, but a journey they took together. A knock at the door interrupted them. Lena entered, her silver hair now worn openly, her fox nature no longer hidden. At 16, she had grown into her role as royal seer, advising the crown with visions that had proven invaluable in navigating the treacherous early months of integration. "We have a problem," Lena said without preamble. "The eastern markets. Tensions are rising again." "Another trade dispute?" Connor asked, already moving toward the door. "Worse," Lena said. "A human merchant accused a wolf shifter of theft. The shifter says he was framed. Both sides are gathering supporters. My visions show it turning violent in," she checked an internal clock only she could see, 20 minutes. "Then we have 20 minutes to stop it," Mira said, already wrapping a cloak around her pregnant form. "You shouldn't be going into potential riot situations," Connor protested, his protective instincts flaring through the bond. "I'm pregnant, not fragile," Mira countered. "And they need to see their Luna still cares, still listens, still fights for justice." "Then I'm coming with you," Connor said firmly. "I wouldn't have it any other way." They moved through the palace with practiced efficiency, collecting a small escort of mixed guards, human and shifter working in synchronized pairs. The integration of the City Watch had been one of their earliest and most successful reforms. When humans and shifters patrolled together, defended each other, bled together, it was harder to see each other as enemies. The Eastern Market was already tense when they arrived. 2 crowds had formed, one predominantly human, one predominantly shifter, with a clear space between them like a no-man's land. In the center stood a human merchant, red-faced and shouting, and a young wolf shifter, barely 20, trying to maintain his dignity while clearly terrified. "That's him!" the merchant yelled, pointing at the shifter. "Caught him red-handed trying to steal from my stall. Filthy animal thought he could just take what he wanted." "I didn't steal anything," the shifter protested. "I paid. I have the receipt. But he threw it away and claimed I never gave him money." "Liar," the merchant spat. The crowds were getting louder, angrier. Mira could feel the situation balanced on a knife's edge. One wrong word, and 6 months of careful progress could burn. "Enough," she said, her voice not loud but carrying the Luna's authority. Everyone fell silent. She walked into the space between the crowds, Connor at her side, hand on his weapon but not drawing it. "We will resolve this," Mira said. "But not with violence, not with accusations, with evidence and testimony." "The merchant has no evidence," someone from the shifter side shouted. "Just his word against ours." "And the shifter has no witnesses," someone from the human side countered. "Just his word against a respected merchant." "Then we find the truth another way," Mira said. She turned to Lena, who had accompanied them. "Can you see what happened?" Lena's eyes went distant, her fox nature allowing her to perceive not just the future, but echoes of the recent past. After a moment she spoke. The shifter paid. 3 silver coins, but the merchant pocketed them and then claimed theft. He's done this before, 4 times in the past month, always to shifter customers. "That's a lie," the merchant blustered. But there was fear in his eyes now. "Is it?" Mira said quietly. "Then you won't mind if we search your stall. If we find nothing, the shifter will be punished for false accusation. But if we find evidence of fraud, you will face justice." The merchant's face went pale. "You can't," he started. "I have rights." "Everyone has rights," Mira interrupted, "including the right to honest trade. Guards, search the stall." The mixed patrol moved in, efficient and thorough. Within minutes, they found a hidden compartment beneath the counter containing dozens of receipts, all from shifter customers, all showing payment for goods the merchant had claimed were stolen. The shifter crowd erupted in angry shouts. The merchant tried to run, but was caught by one of the human guards, who looked disgusted by what his own kind had done. 6 months, the guard said, holding the struggling merchant. 6 months of Her Majesty trying to build peace, and you're sabotaging it for a few extra coins." Mira felt the crowd's anger like a physical force. She understood it. This merchant had deliberately tried to spark violence, to undermine everything they had worked for. The easy thing would be to let the crowd have him, to let their justice be swift and brutal. But easy and right were rarely the same thing. "Stop!" she commanded, and again the crowd fell silent. This man committed fraud and attempted to incite riot. Those are serious crimes. But we are not a kingdom of mob justice. We are a kingdom of law. She turned to the merchant, who was trembling in the guard's grip. "You will be tried fairly. You will be allowed to speak in your defense. And if found guilty, you will face punishment proportional to your crime. That is what justice means." "Just let them have him," someone shouted from the human side. "He's a disgrace to us all." "No," Mira said firmly, "because the moment we allow mob justice is the moment we become what our enemies claim we are: lawless, violent, unable to govern ourselves." She looked at both crowds, human and shifter. "We are better than this. We have to be better than this, because the world is watching to see if we fail." The tension slowly drained from the market. The crowds didn't disperse, but they stepped back, giving the guards room to take the merchant into custody. As Mira turned to leave, a young human woman stepped forward, carrying a small child. "Your Majesty," she said hesitantly, "I just wanted to say thank you. My husband is a shifter. We've been afraid to walk these streets together. But seeing you and Lord Connor, seeing how you lead, it gives us hope." Mira felt tears prick her eyes. "What's your name?" "Alara," the woman said, "and this is our daughter Mira, named for you." The child, perhaps 2 years old, reached out to touch Mira's pregnant belly with chubby fingers. "Baby," she said solemnly. "Yes," Mira said, her voice thick with emotion. "A baby, who will grow up in a world where love matters more than species." Connor's hand found hers, squeezing gently. Through the bond, she felt his pride and his love and his determination to make sure that world existed. As they walked back to the palace, Lena fell into step beside them. "That was the 11th incident this month," she said quietly. "Someone is deliberately trying to provoke conflicts." "I know," Mira said. "The question is who and why." "My visions show a pattern," Lena continued, "always in crowded markets, always involving merchants who have lost business since integration, always timed to cause maximum disruption." "Economic sabotage," Connor said, his tactical mind analyzing the pattern. "Someone's organizing the merchants who feel threatened by the new order." "Can you see who?" Mira asked Lena. "The visions are clouded," Lena admitted, frustration clear in her voice. "Whoever is behind this knows how to hide from foresight. But I see the next incident. Tomorrow, the Western Quarter. Another merchant will claim theft, but this time he'll have Confederates in the crowd ready to turn it into a full riot." "Then we'll be ready," Connor said. "I'll have extra patrols in place." "No," Mira said, an idea forming. "We'll be ready, but not with force. We'll be ready with witnesses." "What do you mean?" Lena asked. Mira smiled. "If someone is trying to make us look like tyrants, we'll show the people the truth. We'll invite the foreign ambassadors to observe. The neighboring kingdoms who are waiting to see if we succeed or fail. Let them watch us handle a crisis with justice instead of violence." "That's risky," Connor said. "If it goes wrong, we'll look weak in front of the very people we need to impress." "And if it goes right," Mira countered, "we'll prove that our way works. That peace is possible." Through the bond, Connor considered her plan, turning it over from every tactical angle. Finally, he nodded. "It's bold, but it might work. I'll make the arrangements." That night, Mira stood on the balcony of their private chambers, looking out over the city. Lights were beginning to appear as evening fell. Human homes and shifter dens mixed together in neighborhoods that were slowly learning to coexist. She felt Connor approach, his arms wrapping around her from behind, careful of her pregnant belly. His hand joined hers on the swell where their daughter grew. "Worried about tomorrow?" he asked. "Terrified," she admitted. "What if my plan makes things worse? What if I'm putting people in danger for nothing?" "You're giving them a chance to choose peace," Connor said. "That's not nothing." "But what if they don't choose it?" Mira whispered. "What if humans and shifters just can't live together? What if my mother's dream was impossible?" Connor turned her to face him, his luminous eyes serious. "6 months ago, you stood in a palace courtyard and forgave a man who murdered your mother. You turned a monster back into a human with nothing but compassion. If that's possible, then anything is possible." That was different, Mira protested. That was one person. This is an entire kingdom. It's still people, Connor said. Individual people making individual choices. And every day, more of them choose hope over hate. Like Alara, naming her daughter after you. Like that human guard today, disgusted by his own kind's fraud. Like the 15 packs who answered your call and stayed to build instead of fight. He rested his forehead against hers. You're not trying to force people to change. You're just showing them there's another way. The rest is up to them. Mira closed her eyes, letting his certainty flow through the bond. I love you, she whispered. I love you too, Connor replied, and so does she. He patted her belly gently. Our daughter believes in you completely. How do you know? Mira asked, smiling despite her worry. Because she kicks every time you use your Luna voice, Connor said. She knows her mother is a queen. The next morning dawned clear and cold. Mira dressed in formal attire that accommodated her pregnancy, silver and blue, that marked her as Luna without being ostentatious. Connor wore his military dress uniform, a compromise that honored his Marine service while acknowledging his role as royal consort. Lena had chosen red, a deliberate statement, the color of blood they refused to spill unnecessarily. The foreign ambassadors arrived precisely at noon. Representatives from 12 neighboring kingdoms, some sympathetic to the Unified Realms experiment, others openly skeptical. They gathered in a secured viewing area overlooking the Western Market, where merchants were already setting up their afternoon wares. Ambassador Thrace of the Southern Coalition, a gray-haired man with calculating eyes, spoke first. Your Majesty, I must admit I'm curious why you invited us to observe. What exactly? Justice, Mira said simply. We have intelligence that someone will attempt to provoke a riot here today. Instead of stopping it quietly, we want you to see how we handle it. And if you fail, Thrace said bluntly, if this riot succeeds and people die, then you'll have your answer about whether our way works, Mira replied, and you can report back to your king accordingly. The ambassadors settled in to watch, some intrigued, others clearly expecting disaster. In the market below, Connor had positioned his mixed patrols carefully, not in overwhelming force, but visible enough to respond quickly if needed. He stood beside Mira, tension evident in every line of his body. Through the bond, she felt his worry. This is a huge risk. All progress is risk, she replied. We just have to trust that the people are better than their worst impulses. Lena touched Mira's arm. It's starting. The merchant in the blue cloak. 3 minutes. They watched as a portly merchant in blue began arranging his display of fabrics. A young shifter woman approached, clearly interested in a particular bolt of cloth. They spoke, money changed hands, and then the merchant suddenly shouted, "Thief!" he yelled. "She's stealing from me!" But unlike the incident the day before, this time the merchant had allies. Men strategically placed throughout the crowd began shouting support, claiming they had witnessed the theft, demanding the shifter be arrested. The woman protested her innocence, showing the fabric she had legitimately purchased, but the crowd was turning ugly. More voices joined in, human merchants who saw an opportunity to express their resentment of the changes integration had brought. The shifter side of the crowd began to respond, defending the woman, accusing the merchants of conspiracy. Within moments, shoving began. Connor tensed, ready to signal his guards, but Mira placed a hand on his arm. Wait, because something unexpected was happening. A human merchant from a neighboring stall stepped forward. "That's a lie," she shouted over the noise. "I saw the whole thing." The girl paid. I watched her hand over the coins. More voices joined hers. Other merchants, other customers, human and shifter both, speaking up for what they had witnessed, the truth, rising to combat the lie. The blue-cloaked merchants' allies tried to shout them down, but they were outnumbered now. The crowd that had been turning toward violence was instead turning toward justice. One of Connor's patrol leaders, a human sergeant named Keller, moved in with his shifter partner. "We'll need all witnesses to come forward," he announced, "and we'll need to see the merchant's accounts." The merchant tried to run, but the crowd itself stopped him, a human baker catching him by the arm. "Oh no," the baker said. "You're going to answer for trying to destroy what we've built here." The ambassadors watching from above were silent, stunned by what they were seeing. "Your people," Ambassador Thrace said slowly. "They're policing themselves. They're choosing peace," Mira corrected. "We just gave them the framework to do it safely." "But how?" another ambassador asked. "How did you change an entire kingdom's culture in 6 months?" "We didn't," Connor said. "The culture was always there. People naturally want to live in peace, to trade fairly, to raise their children safely. Demon's regime forced them to hate and fear each other. We're just letting them remember what they wanted all along. Below, the situation was resolving peacefully. The fraudulent merchant was in custody, his confederates identified by dozens of witnesses. The young shifter woman was being apologized to by the merchants who had initially doubted her. And the crowd was dispersing, order restored not by force, but by collective choice. Ambassador Thrace turned to Mira, his expression thoughtful. "I came here expecting to witness a failure, Your Majesty. I'll be honest about that. My king sent me to document the chaos he was certain would consume your realm." "And now?" Mira asked. "Now I'll be recommending formal alliance," Thrace said, "because what I witnessed today was not weakness. It was the strongest form of government I've ever seen. A people who choose order because they believe in it, not because they fear punishment." The other ambassadors murmured agreement, some more enthusiastically than others. But the tide had shifted. The unified realm had proven itself. As the ambassadors departed to write their reports, Lena approached Mira with an odd expression. "What is it?" Mira asked. "I just had a vision," Lena said, "different from the tactical ones. This was—" She paused, searching for words. "This was years from now. I saw our daughter, grown, silver hair and fox eyes like I predicted. But she wasn't alone." "Who was with her?" Connor asked. "Other children," Lena said, wonder in her voice. "Human and shifter and hybrid, all learning together, playing together. A whole generation that doesn't remember the old hatreds." She looked at Mira. "You did it. What you're building now, it lasts." Mira felt tears stream down her face. "That's all I wanted," she whispered. "A world where children can just be children." Connor pulled her close, and through the bond she felt his tears matching hers. The weeks that followed saw a cascade of recognitions from neighboring kingdoms. Trade agreements were signed, borders opened. The unified realm was becoming not just an experiment, but a model, other kingdoms watching to see if they could replicate the success. But not everyone was pleased with the changes. Mira was in the council chamber, 7 months pregnant now and increasingly uncomfortable, when the report came in. Rhea entered with a grim expression, a sealed letter in her hand. "This just arrived," Rhea said, "by courier from the far western territories. It's—" she hesitated, "a threat." Mira broke the seal and read the letter. Her blood ran cold. "What does it say?" Connor asked, moving to read over her shoulder. "It's from a group calling themselves the Purists," Mira said. "Human supremacists who reject integration. They're threatening to assassinate me during the Winter Festival unless I abdicate and return the throne to—" she read the exact words, "its rightful human lineage." Through the bond, Connor's protective rage was overwhelming. "They're threatening our child." "Indirectly," Mira said, trying to stay calm. "But yes, they know I'm pregnant. They know when I'll be most vulnerable." "We cancel the festival," Connor said immediately. "Move you to a secure location. Hunt down every member of this purist group and prove them right," Mira interrupted. "Prove that we rule through fear and force. Prove that integration has made us weak." She placed a hand on her swollen belly, feeling her daughter kick as if in response to the threat. "No, we don't cancel. We don't hide. We meet this threat the same way we've met every other challenge, with truth and transparency." "That's suicide," Rhea said bluntly. "Your Majesty, you're 7 months pregnant. You can't fight." "I don't plan to fight," Mira said. "I plan to talk." Connor's frustration poured through the bond. "Mira, they're terrorists. You can't reason with terrorists." "Maybe not," Mira said. "But I can reason with the people who might be sympathetic to their message, the humans who feel left behind by integration, the ones who are afraid of change." She stood, her Luna authority filling the room. "We hold the festival as planned, but we make it a forum, a place where anyone, human or shifter, can voice their concerns safely, where grievances can be aired and addressed without violence." "And when the purists attack anyway?" Connor asked. "Then we'll have 200 witnesses who saw us offering peace and them choosing violence," Mira said. "We'll have proof of who the real threat is." Lena entered the council chamber, her timing uncanny as always. "I saw this," she said. "The festival, the threat, the outcome." "And?" Mira asked. Lena smiled. "You're going to change a terrorist's mind with nothing but words." "I didn't believe it when I saw it, but the vision was clear." "Impossible," Rhea scoffed. "We've made a career of the impossible," Connor said quietly. He took Mira's hand. "If you're doing this, I'm beside you every step." The winter festival arrived with snow falling gently on the city. The palace courtyard had been transformed into an open forum with a raised platform where Mira could address the crowd. Security was present, but not overwhelming, Connor having positioned his forces to respond quickly without appearing threatening. Thousands gathered, human and shifter mixed together in a way that would have been unthinkable a year ago. But there were segregated pockets too, groups of humans standing apart, their body language hostile. Mira stood on the platform, visibly pregnant, visibly vulnerable. Connor stood beside her, hand resting on his weapon, but not drawing it. Lena was nearby, her fox senses alert for any threat. "Thank you for coming," Mira began, her voice magically amplified to reach the entire courtyard. "I know many of you have concerns about the direction of our realm, about the changes integration has brought. I'm here to listen." A man pushed to the front of one hostile group, his face red with anger. "You're destroying everything," he shouted. "Human culture, human heritage. You're selling us out to animals." "I'm asking you to share a kingdom with people who are different from you," Mira said calmly. "That's not destruction, that's growth." "They're not people," the man spat. "They're beasts wearing human skin." "My mate is standing beside me," Mira said. "He's a shifter. Is he a beast?" "He's corrupted you," the man argued, "made you forget your human heritage." "My human heritage includes 17 years as a slave," Mira said, her voice hard. "Beaten, starved, sold like property. That's what humans did to me. Humans, not shifters." The crowd was silent now, listening. "My mate, this shifter you call a beast. He healed my wounds," Mira continued, "taught me to control my power, stood beside me when I had nothing, protected me when I was weak, and loved me when I thought I was unlovable." She placed a hand on her pregnant belly. "This child I carry is half shifter. Does that make her less human, less worthy of life?" The man faltered, his anger meeting her calm and finding no purchase. "I'm not asking you to forget you're human," Mira said, addressing the entire crowd now. "I'm asking you to remember that humanity is defined by our choices, not our species. We choose compassion or cruelty, unity or division, hope or hate." She stepped down from the platform, moving toward the hostile group despite Connor's immediate tension through the bond. At 7 months pregnant, she was awkward, vulnerable, but she walked with absolute confidence. "You're afraid," she said to the angry man. "Afraid of losing your place in the world. Afraid that change means you don't matter anymore. I understand that fear." "You don't understand anything," the man said, but there were tears in his eyes now. "I was nobody for 17 years, Mira said softly. "Worth exactly 20 pounds of grain. Every day I was afraid I'd disappear and no one would notice or care. So yes, I understand fear. But I learned something," she continued. "Fear divides us, makes us weak, makes us easy to manipulate by people who benefit from our hatred." She gestured to the mixed crowd. "Look around. Human and shifter, merchant and warrior, rich and poor. All of us different. All of us afraid sometimes. But all of us choosing to build instead of destroy." The man was crying openly now. "I lost my shop," he said. "Can't compete with shifter craftsmen. They're faster, stronger. What's left for humans like me?" "What's left is partnership," Mira said. "Your skill combined with their strength, your human creativity with their shifter senses. Together you make something neither could make alone." She turned to address the entire crowd again. "The purists sent me a letter, threatened to kill me unless I restore human supremacy. But supremacy isn't strength, it's weakness disguised as power. True strength," she said, "is standing here, pregnant and vulnerable, and trusting that you will choose peace. Trusting that we can build something better together." A figure moved in the crowd, hand reaching under a cloak. Connor's eyes tracked the movement, his body tensing. But before he could act, the man beside the figure grabbed his arm. "Don't," the second man said. "It's not worth it. She's right. We're better than this." The would-be assassin struggled, and suddenly the entire crowd was involved, humans and shifters working together to subdue him. Not with violence, but with overwhelming presence, making it clear that his hate had no place here. The city guard moved in, taking custody of the man. As they led him away, he spat at Mira. "This isn't over. You can't change human nature." "I'm not trying to change human nature," Mira said. "I'm appealing to it, to the part that wants to protect instead of destroy, to build instead of tear down, to love instead of hate." She looked directly at him. "And even for you, there's a place here if you choose it. Justice, yes. Consequences for your actions, absolutely. but also the chance to be part of something better. The man stopped struggling, confusion replacing rage. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you offer that after I tried to kill you?" "Because I believe people can change," Mira said. "I've seen it happen. I've lived it. And I refuse to give up on that belief, even when it's hard." The winter festival continued, but it had transformed into something else. A conversation, a reckoning, a choice point for the kingdom. By evening, when the snow had stopped and stars emerged overhead, something fundamental had shifted. The segregated groups had dissolved. Humans and shifters were talking, arguing, sometimes agreeing, sometimes not, but engaging with each other as equals. Connor found Mira sitting on the platform steps, exhausted but smiling. "You did it," he said through the bond. "You actually changed minds with just words." "Not just words," Mira replied. "Truth and trust, and the hope that people are better than their fears." He sat beside her, his arm around her shoulders. "Our daughter is going to have quite the role model. Our daughter is going to have a kingdom that believes in her," Mira said. "That's all I wanted." Lena approached, her expression peaceful. "The visions are clearing," she said. "I can see further now, years ahead. And she smiled, "it's beautiful. Everything we're building, it lasts. It grows. Other kingdoms follow our example." "How many?" Mira asked. "All of them," Lena said. "Within a generation, the old hatreds are gone, replaced by cooperation, understanding, peace." Mira felt tears on her cheeks. Then it was worth it. Every struggle, every risk, every terrifying moment. "It was always worth it," Connor said, his love flooding through the bond. 3 weeks later, on a night when the blood moon rose silver over the city, Mira went into labor. The birthing room was prepared according to both human and shifter traditions, a blending that symbolized everything they had built. Rhea attended as healer, her medical expertise combining human medicine with shifter healing arts. Connor was there, of course, his hand crushing Mira's as contractions intensified. "You're doing amazing," he said, though through the bond she could feel his terror. Childbirth was the one battle he couldn't fight for her. "Tell that to your daughter," Mira gasped. "She's taking her time." "She's being careful," Connor said, already tactical. Hours passed, pain and fear and love all mixing together. And then, just as the blood moon reached its apex, their daughter entered the world. She was tiny and perfect, with silver hair already visible on her head and eyes that would clearly be amber when they opened. The moment Rhea placed her in Mira's arms, the baby shifted, not to wolf, but to a tiny white fox kit, then back to human, her nature already manifesting. "She's beautiful," Connor breathed, his finger touching his daughter's tiny hand. "She's perfect." "What's her name?" Rhea asked gently. Mira looked at Connor through the bond. They shared the same thought simultaneously. "Seraphine," Mira said, "after my mother, but we'll call her Sarah, a new beginning, not a replacement." "Mira Ashford Blackwood," Connor said, testing the name, "future of the unified realm." The baby, as if recognizing her name, opened her eyes. They were amber and luminous and filled with the same fox nature that Lena possessed. She looked at her parents with an intelligence that should have been impossible for a newborn. And then she smiled. News of the birth spread through the city like wildfire. By morning, crowds had gathered at the palace, not demanding anything, just celebrating, human and shifter together, rejoicing in the symbol of hope that this child represented. Mira stood at the window of her chambers, Sarah sleeping in her arms, and looked out at the celebration below. "They love her," she said to Connor, who stood beside her. "They love what she represents," Connor replied. "Proof that our two peoples can become one." Lena entered, drawn by some instinct to meet her niece. When she took Sarah in her arms, the baby shifted to Foxkit again, and Lena laughed with delight. "She knows," Lena said, "knows I'm like her, fox, not wolf. She'll need you to teach her," Mira said, "to understand that part of herself. I saw this moment," Lena admitted, holding her. "But I didn't see how much it would mean, how much hope one tiny life could carry." She looked at Mira with tears in her eyes. "You did it, sister. You built a world where she can be everything she is without hiding any part of herself." "We built it," Mira corrected, "all of us together." The weeks that followed were exhausting, but joyful. Sarah was a demanding baby, shifting between forms unpredictably, keeping her parents constantly alert. But she was also happy, surrounded by love from every direction. Connor proved to be a natural father, his protective instincts channeled into nurturing instead of fighting. Mira would wake in the night to find him holding Sarah, talking to her about tactics and honor and the importance of choosing compassion even when anger was easier. On the day of Sarah's naming ceremony, a traditional ritual blending human and shifter customs, ambassadors from 20 kingdoms attended. The child who had been prophesied, who represented the future, was formally presented to the realm. Mira stood before the assembled crowd, Sarah in her arms, Connor beside her, Lena nearby. Behind them, the mixed council that governed the unified realm. Before them, thousands of citizens who had chosen peace. "This is Mira Ashford Blackwood," Mira announced, "daughter of human and shifter, bridge between worlds, symbol of the future we're building together." She held Sarah high, and the baby shifted to Foxkit, then back to human, her dual nature manifest for all to see. "She is proof," Mira said, "that we are not two peoples forced to coexist. We are one people, diverse and strong, building something unprecedented." The crowd erupted in cheers, human and shifter voices blending together in celebration. That evening, after the ceremonies and celebrations had ended, Mira sat in the nursery with Connor, watching Sarah sleep in her cradle. "Do you think she'll understand?" Mira asked quietly, "the weight of what she represents?" "She won't have to carry it alone," Connor said. "She'll have us. Have Lena. Have an entire kingdom that believes in her." Through the bond, Mira felt his certainty, but she also felt his lingering worry. "What is it?" she asked. "Just thinking about the future," Connor admitted, "about the challenges she'll face, the people who will hate her for what she is." "There will always be those people," Mira said, "but there will also be people like Alara, who named her daughter after hope, like the merchants who chose truth over profit, like the man at the festival who stopped an assassination because he believed we could be better." She took Connor's hand. "We can't protect her from everything, but we can teach her to face it with courage and compassion, just like you taught me." "I didn't teach you that," Connor protested. "You already had it. I just reminded you." "Then we'll remind her," Mira said, "every day, that she's loved, that she matters, that her voice has power to change the world." Sarah stirred in her sleep, shifting briefly to Foxkit before settling back to human form. Both parents watched in wonder at the miracle they had created together. A year passed, and then another. The unified realm grew stronger, more kingdoms joining the alliance, more people choosing integration over isolation. The council expanded to include representatives from every region, every community, ensuring all voices were heard. Sarah grew from infant to toddler, her dual nature manifesting in unique ways. She had her mother's Luna power, able to emit soft moonlight when emotional. She had her father's tactical mind, even at 2 years old, showing an uncanny ability to solve problems. And she had Lena's fox gifts, seeing brief glimpses of the future and using them to get exactly what she wanted. She was, as Lena had predicted, magnificent. On the second anniversary of the Winter Festival, Mira stood before the same crowd that had once threatened her life. But the angry man who had led the purists was not in the crowd. He was on the platform beside her, introduced as the head of the new Integration Support Council, a group dedicated to helping humans and shifters find common ground. "I was wrong," he said to the assembled thousands. "I let fear make me cruel. I let hatred make me weak. But Queen Mira, she showed me another way." He turned to Mira. "You offered me mercy when I tried to kill you, offered me a place in this new world when I had done everything to destroy it. I didn't understand then, but I do now." "Mercy isn't weakness," he told the crowd. "It's the strongest thing we can offer each other, the chance to be better, the grace to change." The crowd erupted in applause, the transformation of this man from terrorist to advocate, the perfect symbol of what the realm had achieved. Later that night, Mira walked through the palace gardens with Connor, Sarah toddling between them, holding both their hands. The blood moon rose overhead, silver and bright, blessing the family that had changed the world. "Do you ever regret it?" Connor asked, "choosing mercy over vengeance, peace over power?" "Never," Mira said. "Look at her." She pointed to Sarah, who was giggling as she shifted between forms, playing with her own nature. She gets to grow up free, free to be everything she is. That's worth any price. Through the bond, Connor's love washed over her. "I'm proud of you," he said, "of us, of everything we've built." "We're not done building," Mira reminded him. "There's still so much work to do." "I know," Connor said. "But we're not doing it alone anymore. We have a kingdom full of people who believe, who choose hope every day. That's more than we started with." Sarah tugged on both their hands, wanting to be lifted. Connor scooped her up, and she settled against his chest with a contented sigh. "Tell me a story," she demanded in the imperious tone only toddlers can manage. "What kind of story?" Connor asked. "A true one," Sarah said, "about brave people." Mira smiled. "I know a story," she said, "about a girl who was sold for grain and became a queen, about a soldier who was bitten by a beast and became a hero, about a fox who saw the future and helped build it." "Tell that one," Sarah said, her amber eyes bright with interest. So they sat in the gardens under the silver moon, and Mira told their story. The true story of how mercy defeated hate, how forgiveness proved stronger than vengeance, how love built a kingdom from the ashes of fear. And Sarah listened, her young mind already understanding that she was part of something larger than herself, that the world her parents had built for her came with responsibility as well as freedom. When the story ended, Sarah looked up at Mira with serious eyes. "When I'm big," she said, "I'll be brave like you." "You're already brave," Mira said, kissing her daughter's forehead. "You just have to choose it every day." As they walked back to the palace, a family united by blood and bond and unshakable hope, the blood moon shone silver overhead. A promise kept, a future earned, a world transformed by mercy.